Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hassell, thank you to you and your team for being here today. Title 72 was last revised in 1971 by removing a provision which called for annual filings for small businesses. The current law now requires filing of sales tax returns to be conducted on a semi-annual or quarterly basis with the Department of Revenue, regardless of the amount in total sales. So this requirement, I believe, places an undue administrative burden on new startup small businesses, which we really want to be encouraging, as well as businesses that are reopening after the economic shutdown in the Commonwealth, with unnecessary paperwork for tax liabilities as low as $1 per quarter. Can you quantify the cost to taxpayers in personnel time to administer and enforce compliance of license holders for a small return? And would you be amenable to streamlining this provision for filing purposes for small businesses with less than $20,000 in annual sales or less than $1,200 in total sales liability that could potentially also save the Department of Revenue in administrative personnel costs?
So you are correct that for the smallest vendors, then either a semi-annual or a quarterly return would be the norm, and that's where most companies start out in their first year doing business. I think typically they would start out on a quarterly schedule. And to be fair, it's been a long time since those thresholds have been looked at.
50
and
years.
It's certainly something that we could work with you on. The only caveat that I should mention here is simply that I don't know the revenue impact of making those kind of changes off the top of my head. It has the effect of delaying receipt of revenue, so that when we do those kind of things, it tends to have a one-year fiscal impact in which payments that would have come in a fiscal year then are delayed to the next fiscal year. I'm not saying that we would be opposed to it, but we could certainly work with you to look at those numbers.
I appreciate that very much, and certainly I think we need to look at anything that we can do to encourage small businesses to start up here in the Commonwealth, as well as to restart here in the Commonwealth. Thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, I want to go back to the line of questioning that began with the good gentleman from Venango County, and that is that the budget includes several performance metrics, and I do appreciate that. And one of those metrics looks at how to continually improve customer service. And throughout this pandemic, of course, we all know citizens have been required to interact with their state government over the internet or through the phone. And the average wait time of a customer who calls the Customer Experience Center has seen a significant increase in wait time. I know that you said that the fine employees at the Department of Revenue have been just as effective, and that productivity has been just as good. But again, what the metrics are indicating is that there has been an increase in wait time. So would like to understand what you attribute that increase in wait time to. Do you believe it's a result of staff working remotely that has increased that wait time? And I know you had a beginning of a discussion with the chairman about this, but what are your plans to reduce the wait time? Are you going to be bringing more staff back to the call centers? And if you're not, what are your plans and your timelines for bringing forward those plans to reduce your facility costs?
Thank you for that question, Senator. So there have been several things that we've done in order to bring that situation under control. You may be aware that as of a couple of years ago, there were tremendous problems with people getting busy signals in our call center and not even being able to get into queue in order to wait to speak to an agent. And I think that the changes we've made so far have really helped to bring that under control. I think in general, the busy signal rate is much less than it was before. One of the things that we've done is to reorganize our staff so that the number of people who are available to take incoming phone calls is more than it was before. We now have combined the call centers for incoming calls with those who make outgoing calls, tax collection kind of calls, so that the manager there has some flexibility to put more people who would otherwise be making outgoing calls on the phones in order to answer a surge of incoming calls. That process is still playing out in order to give time for the staff involved to be retrained in order to be able to handle those calls as they come in. And we plan to continue to add staff there and to try to maximize the number of people that we have on the phones in order to bring the wait time down. So I guess what I'd like to say is that that number is not where I'd like it to be, but we are moving our resources, bringing more people to the call center in order to try to make those numbers better as we go forward.
So we can expect that more people will be returned back to the call centers?
Well, I mentioned that we have created some flexibility for the managers to bring more people into answering phone calls when needed. And that flexibility is something that didn't exist in the past.
And again, what are your plans to reduce your facility operating costs? Because it doesn't sound as if you're going to be bringing everyone back. When will you look into that? When can we expect to have a report as to your plans?
As I mentioned, there are, in some of our field offices, we have been moving to consolidate our space in order to reduce our footprint. And there have been some savings in our budget from taking those steps. I think I need to turn to Kristin Phillips-Hill to get those details.
Thank you, Senator. So far, we have closed a few of our field offices or consolidated a few of our field offices. And the savings so far is a recurring savings of about $300,000. And we're continuing to look at our various field offices to see where we may have, for example, more than one field office for the Department of Revenue for different bureaus or functions that we can consolidate to have fewer field offices in the same area of the state and share space to reduce costs. So we are actively looking at that and looking to see where we can consolidate and save additional money. But so far, just in the last year, we have closed or are actively in the process of closing 3 offices for a recurring savings of $300,000 a year.
Thank you.